Welcome to Late Night with Mick. This is my first show, so let's see how it goes. Alright, a supernova star named Betelgeuse is starting to die. Reports say if you say its name 3 times, it will come back to life. Authors are leaving J.K. Rowling's literary agency in response to her transphobic statements. Find out more in her latest book, Harry Potter and the Cauldron of Toxic Intolerance. Presidential hopeful Joe Biden is on the search for his VP. His chief of staff reminds him, "No, Joe, you can't choose Obama's shadow." Sorry, Joe. A runner from Vermont just finished 87 marathons in 87 days on her treadmill during COVID lockdown. Meanwhile, I got sore from mowing the lawn. Finally, a man in Virginia made a trip to the store for hot dogs and won $100,000 in the lottery jackpot. Imagine if he'd gotten some buns, too. Yes, hello, Late Night with Mick. But I thought that Biden joke was political. Oh, you want White House jokes? White House specific jokes? Like a White House briefing? Brief jokes on the White House? You got it. The Petty family is blasting Trump for playing a Tom Petty song at one of his rallies, stating in a tweet that they sent him a cease and desist letter. Looks like Trump's campaign is free fallin', or awkwardly walking down a ramp. Also, the White House is under fire for supposedly granting Chinese spies access to confidential information. Frankly, I'm surprised Trump hasn't already tweeted something like, "Great meeting with the Chinese spies. They're lovely people. Hopefully we can get sushi or whatever it is they eat over there at Mar-a-Lago soon and talk about what to do with the 2020 election. Not collusion if they finance your campaign. #liberal media." Reddit banned their topic labeled _Donald after agreeing the subreddit promoted hate speech, violence, ethnic cleansing, and anti-black and anti-Semitic rhetoric. So basically a Trump rally on the internet. And that's it for the White House briefing. That was enough White House news? Alright, good. Now for some cute news. You're back. Now for some cute news. An opera house in Barcelona played Puccini for an audience full of plants. Super cute. I believe we have a clip from the concert's big closer. The Positive Lexicography Project by Dr. Tim Lomas features untranslatable words. My favorites are as follows. There's tarab in Arabic, which means a musically induced state of ecstasy. Me at every wedding I've been to. There's wabi-sabi in Japanese, which means, I have to look at it, a dark, desolate sublimity centered on transience and imperfection and beauty. There's orenda in the Huron language, which is the power of the human will to change the world in face of powerful forces such as fate. There's desentenção in Portuguese, which is to artfully disentangle oneself from a troublesome situation. Something I have trouble with sometimes. Desentenção. There's pihantagu, which is literally meaning with a relaxed brain. It describes quick-witted people who can come up with sophisticated jokes or solutions. Some people just have pihantagu. Then there's the diri, which is an Australian Aboriginal term, which means a deep spiritual act of reflective and respectful listening, which I hope you're doing right now. Upon reading all these words, I felt indisposabilia, a word I just made up that means a feeling where I'm indisposed by the beauty of knowing so little and the vastness that is Earth and the diversity of its cultures. The website of Dr. Tim Lomas has a feature where you can add a word to the lexicography project that is untranslatable. There's a link here, and I'll link it into the description. If you can't think of a word from a different language that's untranslatable, you can also always add indisposabilia if you want to. Finally, Queera has been the news recently because they've won some awards and they just dropped their new season on Netflix. Here's a look at their less successful spin-off, Aggressively Straight Eye. So this is good, but I recommend activewear. Do you have any basketball shorts by any chance? So I know we're working with a smaller space here, so I took some dark colors so that it accentuates the vastness of the room. And really, this is all you need. See, it's a chair, and then also when you want to relax a little, it's a lounge. You know, chair, lounge. So what's going on? Oh, you're crying. Well, you know, sometimes you just have to keep on keeping on, and then you push through, and when the tough get going, the going get emotions. We'll get you there. We'll get you there. Yeah. Okay, this is a typical 6-in-1. It's mouthwash, conditioner, shampoo, toothpaste, shaving cream, and soap. You can use it on your face, you can use it on your body, you can drink it. It's an all-in-one package, and it's great for you. I can't recommend it any higher. Okay, for a quick breakfast, I like to do is pour some milk, not more than 3/4, and then sprinkle some cereal on top. Quick breakfast.
Aggressively Straight Eye, this fall on Bro TV.
In this minute, I will tell you what I watched and what I read for the week. What I watched was Da 5 Bloods on Netflix, Spike Lee's new movie. It was fantastic. And my favorite part was the use of music, which primarily focused on Marvin Gaye's concept album, What's Going On, which itself is an amazing album, but it also echoed the themes of the movie, and Spike Lee also wanted to show Marvin Gaye as another character of the Sixth Blood, if you will. And I wrote about it in an article that I'll link to the bottom. What I read was a James Baldwin play called Blues for Mr. Charlie, which was loosely based on Emmett Till. Very poignant, very powerful. I didn't know James Baldwin wrote plays. I read some of his essays and some of his novels before. This was amazing. So I definitely recommend that as well. Let's see, I have 1 second left, and that's it for the Mick Minute. Thank you very much. The topic I decided to choose for my very first Going Deep series is Chicago comedy and the ongoing racism and misogyny in the city's beloved theaters. There's so much live comedic theater in Chicago that the community lovingly describes it as improv mecca. If at the start of my segment I already mentioned the cultural appropriation of a sacred religious shrine, you know it's going to get bad. So let's break it down. There's 2 major theaters in Chicago, Second City and IO. Let's start with Second City, which, fun fact, is named after Chicago's moniker back when it was the second biggest city in the US. And funnily enough, it's not named after the type of class the city views its Southside citizens. Andrew Alexander, Second City's former CEO and cool principal who's desperately trying to connect with the youths, resigned from his position over institutional racism. Some CEOs like that of Ben & Jerry's addressed the root of the problem and called to dismantle white supremacy. I believe we have a sneak peek of their new flavor. But Alexander chose a more understated approach in support of the current BLM movement. He didn't mention his previous objectionable actions. His statement seemed so hastily thrown together that it looked like a downloadable template from self-congratulatoryactivism.org. Former Second City comedian and current Dreamboat Dwayne Perkins quickly pointed out the hypocrisy of this statement. He reminded Alexander of his response when Perkins wanted to do a BLM fundraiser. Alexander suggested they donate 50% of their proceeds to Chicago PD. To get an idea of why that makes absolutely no sense, here's a graph from the police department's annual budget. That's roughly $1.8 billion. 1.8 billion. Billion in 2020. Seems like they got all the fundraising they needed. I know for a fact they hit it big with their annual car wash. But donating money to the police for a Black Lives Matter fundraiser is not only antithetical to the cause, but carelessly harmful at best. The movement itself is about combating police brutality. That's like if somebody wanted to help out the Little Red Riding Hood and the grandma said, "Oh, we should also help out the poor big bad wolf. He's hungry, you know." Hashtag all species matter. But in the end, several Black Second City alumni sent a letter to Andrew Alexander, and he stepped down. The changes at I.O. were different. They shut their doors down permanently. For those who don't know, I.O. was the second biggest comedy theater in Chicago, the Second City to Second City. The ambiance over there was like a frat house. Drinks were flowing, some people had fun, and there was a culture of hiding alleged sexual misconduct. The president of that frat was Sharna Halpern, the founder and owner of I.O. She partnered with artistic director Del Close, who developed I.O.'s school curriculum and show format. I.O. members called him their guru in another instance of cultural appropriation, but he sounds more to me like the guy in the frat who hazes the pledges. He probably helped coin the term "women ain't funny," would routinely bully his students, fire his performers on a whim, and word on the street in Chicago is that he would abuse his students and performers in any way you could imagine. Hardly what I picture when I think of a guru. Unless we're talking about those Netflix documentary gurus who abuse their followers. In that case, maybe guru is appropriate after all. His motto was, and I'm not making this up, follow the fear, which I can only assume is also what he told his female students before trying to have sex with them. But people over there worshipped him like a god. And I believed his deification was the first time Sharna had to sanitize I.O.'s misdoing and sweep his behavioral issues under the rug. More recently, she even claimed in a since-deleted Facebook post that students were lying about harassment allegations because they were upset about not making a house team. If she's at the head of the operation, you can only imagine what kind of hush-hush culture they were creating. They were always close to the beginning of the end. But respected theater critic, experienced journalist, and business whiz Sean Kamek had a different take altogether, writing an op-ed that stated, "Cancel culture is what killed I.O." Interesting take from a grad student at the U of Chicago studying cultural psychology. What is he doing talking about comedy theaters? We'll never know, but Twitter had a field day with him. He claimed that this tragedy was brought upon the performers, who asked I.O. to be more inclusive with a Change.org petition and inadvertently canceled themselves. Not only is that dumb, but couldn't be further from the truth. They don't need I.O. to survive. Second, cancel culture is not what killed I.O. It was always a little bit dead from the start. It was financially mismanaged and crushing debt ever since they moved to a space that was too big for their own good, and protected its male harassers for decades, relied on students to keep the theater alive, did not pay their performers, made little to no efforts for diversity and inclusion. Need I say more? But cancel culture is a big buzzword nowadays, and at its core, it's really just a pejorative and discrediting way of saying speaking up about trauma. Improv, at its essence, is a very vulnerable art form based on trust. One of the cardinal rules is to go along with whatever your partner is saying and say yes and. But what if your partner is a racist, or sexually aggressive, or abusive? Is it not true improv if you don't follow through with the scene? Is the cardinal rule of agreement suddenly a free pass for anybody to act inappropriately towards women or towards BIPOC performers with the excuse of, well, the scene called for it? I mean, that's the sort of gray area IO has been disregarding since its inception. Diversity and inclusion are intrinsically necessary for a space that requires trust to function. It would be wonderful to have a theater where everyone felt represented and everyone felt comfortable performing on stage all the time. Comedy, at its best, tears down institution. It punches up. It makes jokes about things people can change about themselves, their attitude, their decisions, not something they can't control. It affirms people's place in the world and gives a voice to the unheard. It's such a personal and creative artistic medium that can only grow with diversity and change. It's a place where you listen. The only guideline is to say yes and. So let's hope that the culture of passivity towards institutionalized racism and misogyny will once and for all yes end.